The NBA offseason is always the most exciting portion of the NBA cycle for me. The player movement via trades, free agency signings, firings and hirings in the front office and coaching staff from team to team. It's all very enticing, just the changes that happen in the NBA that translate into a fresh season to look forward to starting in October. But it's all done now. I feel like it was done within the span of 3 days. Everything that we were looking forward to, all the dust is starting to settle. So now it's time to rank the 20 most notable offseason transactions and just player movements that happened in the 2024 offseason. Now, I'm not ranking them based off of just player talent, like what was the best player that went to another team. No, I'm grading it based off of the team's position, the amount of money the team gave a player, or the amount of assets and players that were given away in a trade. How good were these transactions regarding every aspect of them? I'll be ranking them from 20 to 1, and I'll be grading each one of them as well. And these were just the 20 notable transactions and movements that I thought were most notable. You guys can disagree and have something that you thought were deemed more notable than one of these on the list, but it's just my opinion. At 20, I have Dyson Daniels and company going to Atlanta. I'm ranking this transaction on Atlanta's behalf a D+. I think this was the worst move in the entire offseason by any team. Atlanta gave up DeJounte Murray for Dyson Daniels, Larry Nance Jr., a 2025 first round pick from the Lakers that was involved in the the AD trade that happened in 2019, and then a 2027 first round pick that's involved in the Drew Holiday trade to the Bucks that happened in 2020. Now, I'm not saying Dyson Daniels is a bad player. I think he actually has a lot of upside. He was a lottery pick in 2022, I believe, with a lot of upside as a playmaker, a perimeter defender, versatile defender, and we've seen signs of that in his 2 seasons in the NBA. He just hasn't had the playing time because New Orleans was deep as hell. He's the main piece that they got back in trading away an all-star caliber player. I think he still has upside, and I think he still has an opportunity to shine and fulfill that potential in Atlanta. This grade is not discrediting Dyson Daniels at all as a player. It's just they gave away DeJounte Murray for this trade package. Now, when they originally got DeJounte Murray in the 2023 offseason or 2022 offseason, forgot which one, they gave away how many first round picks? It was at least 3, I think, and there might have been some player swaps involved as well, just to turn around and trade him 2 seasons later for 2 first round picks. A 2025 Lakers one that isn't going to be all that great. I think they're going to be flirting with a play-in tournament position, so it's going to be mid-teens at best. And then a 2027 first round pick involved in the Pelicans Drew Holiday trade. I don't think that's going to be a crazy lottery pick as well. I mean, that's 3 years in the future, so who knows, but it also doesn't really make sense given that this is a trade that you make if you're rebuilding as a team. Dyson Daniels is somebody that you're hoping can develop into a great player. He's not that right now. I don't know. I just don't think this trade is consistent with the direction that Atlanta is going, given that they still have Trae Young on the roster. Maybe if they're looking to offload Trae Young in this offseason, this trade could make more sense, but I don't know. Given the inconsistency with their team's position, the amount that they got for an asset in which they gave up a lot to get in the first place in DeJounte Murray, all that considered, I think it's a D+ for Atlanta. At 19, we have Josh Giddy to Chicago. I'm giving this a C. Chicago just gave up Alex Caruso to get Josh Giddy. Giddy is also a playmaker at 6'8", has a lot of playmaking upside. He was drafted for that. He was a lottery pick, and I think he still has that same upside. And they only had to give up Alex Caruso in order to get him. But context matters here. At the trade deadline in 2024, Chicago could have got, I think, a first round pick or 2 first round picks from maybe Golden State and a player to match Caruso's contract. And they opted to keep him. And instead, in this offseason, they just got Josh Giddy, who's coming off kind of a subpar year, a playoff run in which he wasn't really utilized because it was proven that he had a lot of exploitations, things in his game that could be exploited by a playoff caliber defense. Now, Josh Giddy still does have the upside, but he's not the most attractive young player right now due to on-court reasons and off-court reasons. And to not even get a single first-round pick from the team that has the most first-round picks for the next 5, 6, or 7 years, you couldn't get one, not even one that was like lottery protected, not even one that was even top 20 protected. I don't even know if that's possible, but you're telling me OKC, a team that has like 20 plus first round picks over the next 6 or 7 years, you couldn't get one. At number 18, we have Quentin Grimes to Dallas. They got 3 second-round picks and Tim Hardaway Jr. For Quentin Grimes. Now, coming from New York to Detroit, Quentin Grimes really devalued himself. In New York, he proved to be a somewhat consistent 3-and-D player over the prior 2 years, but in this most recent season, the three-point percentage dipped while he was in New York, and then when he went to Detroit, it fell off a cliff. So his value really went down. So the fact that Detroit was able to get 3 second-round picks for him, pretty damn good in my opinion. They also got Tim Hardaway Jr., which is a pickup that makes sense. Detroit is a team that really needs some spacing around Cade Cunningham. Tim Hardaway Jr., he's going to let it fly from outside. He's kind of wavers from season to season regarding efficiency. But if there's one thing that you know for sure, Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to put the ball up. He's best suited as a sixth man. He can come in, shoot the ball, lights out, plus 38% from 3, 14 points a game. Just be another shooter that Cade can kick the ball out to. I think that could be a valuable pickup. So I'm just going to give it a C+, nothing crazy. At 16, another Detroit acquisition. We have Tobias signing to Detroit. This is the first signing I have in my list. So this offseason, Tobias Harris signed a 2-year contract for a total of $52 million, so $26 million per year. Going into the offseason, Detroit was one of a couple teams that have cap space. There weren't that many out there that had a lot of cap space. Detroit was one of them. Not a contending team, so couldn't really view them as a serious competitor in getting Paul George. So they had to pivot for like the second value of near max caliber players. And here you go, Tobias Harris capitalizing. Detroit was going to be desperate enough to spend money somewhere, and here we go. Tobias Harris gets $26 million per year again, or not again, but he gets a payday again. Now, Tobias Harris is not a horrible player. In fact, he had a very underrated season for Philly last year. It's just the fact that he was averaging or making $40 million per year just to score the ball at a 15, 16 point per game clip, you know? So that's something that is really going to rub a lot of people the wrong way. I don't think Tobias Harris is an overrated player. He's just overpaid. Now, $26 million in 2024 is actually not that much money. Now, Tobias Harris, he's an average defender if you put him at the 4. From season to season, his efficiency kind of wavers from 3. I don't think he shot the ball to the best of his ability last year, but I don't think that makes him a horrible shooter. And he didn't have the best playoff run. But if he can just come in, fill a void, you know, just be a floor spacer for Cade, a lot of similar things that Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to be able to provide for Detroit, Tobias Harris can do the same. Just be a floor spacer at the 4 position. Instead of forcing Isaiah Stewart to play the 4, just let him come off the bench. Let Tobias Harris be that starting caliber 4 next to Jalen Duren, next to Asar Thompson, because those are 2 guys that cannot shoot the ball at all. And we know Tobias Harris is also somebody that will put up the ball from outside. If he can just turn himself more into a catch and shoot guy instead of somebody who wants to have the ball in his hands and operate from the elbow, if he can just fill a void, play a role, I think he can be beneficial on this team. At 15, I have Brogden to Washington. I'm giving that a C+. So in this trade, Washington gave up Deni Avdija for Malcolm Brogdon, the 14th pick in the 2024 draft that turned into Bub Carrington. I don't know. As of right now, I don't really like the trade from Washington's behalf, just because like Deni had his career year. He had the best year of his season, best year of his career thus far, and he's on a steal of a contract, especially in this day and age. I think over the next 3 years, he'll be making sub 16 million. A steal of a contract. I think he still has upside to hit and a potential and a ceiling to hit. And I think he was going to continue to grow as Washington trusted him with the ball in his hands going forward a lot more. And I thought he was going to be a key cog and a key piece of Washington's rebuild, and they just traded him away this offseason. Now they got Bub Carrington, who I don't really know much about, so they got a lottery pick, end of lottery, but a lottery pick, and they got Malcolm Brogdon. The reason why I'm giving this, I don't like the trade, but the reason why I'm giving it a C+ is because they got Malcolm Brogdon. Malcolm Brogdon still has value to a playoff contending team, and if Washington can flip him for a first round pick in this upcoming season, then this trade can turn into a B- maybe. But just because I'm so high on Denny Avdia, I don't like Washington really just giving him up. That's why I don't really like the trade. I'm giving it a C+. At 14, we have another Washington Wizards transaction, signing Jonas Valanciunas. I'm giving that one a B-. So Washington signed him on a 3-year, $30 million deal. They needed a starting caliber center, and Jonas Valanciunas, he's not the best center in the world, but I think he's starting caliber on a team like Washington. And they got him on a 3-year deal. It's very team friendly. So in the short term, he'll just be a big body to set screens for Jordan Poole, be a bruiser to clean up the glass for them. And in the long term, maybe on the 2nd or 3rd year of his deal, maybe Washington can flip him for a future asset. At 13, I got Jalen Smith going to Chicago, giving that one a B-. So Jalen Smith signed in Chicago on a 3-year, $27 million contract. It looks like Chicago's finally pivoting to a rebuild, given that they offloaded Alex Caruso for Josh Giddy, who is somebody that they're looking to build more so in the future, and that indicates signs of a rebuild. I don't think they want to bring back DeMar DeRozan, and they're trying desperately to offload Zach LaVine, even though that's proving impossible. Jalen Smith is a center who I think still has upside as like Miles Turner light, pretty mobile, somebody that can protect the rim, space the floor. Not the most physically imposing center. He's kind of on the slimmer side, but he's somebody that is a rare breed, a 5-man that can space the floor and protect the rim. Like, Chicago's going to see what they can get out of him at the starting 5 position while they look to offload Nikola Vucevic, because I think his time in Chicago is coming to an end soon. So it kind of just fits Chicago's timeline and direction right now. And it's a pretty damn good contract. He's not even making $10 million per year. At 12, I have Plumley signing in Phoenix on a minimum contract. I'm giving that a B-. This was a very good signing for Phoenix. They're still looking to contend, and they need a backup center for Nurkic. Somebody who can still rebound the ball, has high IQ, a veteran for when Nurkic comes to the bench. And, given they lost Drew Eubanks in the offseason, they needed somebody to be that backup center for them. And Phoenix is against the second apron, so they didn't have any cap space. The most they could give out was minimum contracts. And to get somebody like Mason Plumlee on a minimum contract who's proven to be a very consistent, very reliable backup center, at times, starting caliber when you're really in a bind, to get him on a minimum contract, I think that's pretty damn good for Phoenix. And at 11, I have Davion Mitchell to Toronto via trade. I'm giving that one a B for Toronto, actually. So Toronto gave up Jalen McDaniels and got in return Davion Mitchell, Sasha Vezenkov, and the 45th pick in the most recent draft, which turned out to be Jamal Shed. I have no idea who that is, but he was the most recent 45th pick. Now, Davion Mitchell was a lottery pick for Sacramento, I think 3 years ago. At the time, I was scratching my head as to why they drafted him, because I knew he was not going to be somebody who fit next to De'Aaron Fox. And fast forward 3 years, and they're trading him away for Jalen McDaniels, who I love because he went to SDSU. That's, they gave away a former lottery pick for somebody who's going to be a 3rd string player, 2nd string at very best. Now for Toronto, it's a buy low type of pickup. Davion Mitchell is somebody who I think still has upside. He never really got the best opportunity in Sacramento outside of his rookie season. Like, after that rookie year, which was really promising, he pretty much fell out of Sacramento's main priorities. And I think Davion Mitchell is somebody who still has not sky high potential to hit, but somebody who I don't think he's become the best player that he could be in his career. I don't think he's hit his prime, even though he was an older rookie coming into the league. He's going to have a lot more opportunity in Toronto because the Raptors needed a point guard after losing Dennis Schroeder, and they are going into the direction of a rebuild. All right, now we are in the top 10, the 10 best acquisitions, trades, pickups, etc. in the offseason thus far. At 10, I got KCP going to Orlando. I'm giving that one a B. This was a big loss for Denver. KCP was integral in Denver's championship run, and last year he was really good for them as well. Because they were brushing up against that second apron, they weren't able to bring him back, and Orlando pounced on the opportunity. He signed in Orlando on a 3-year contract for $66 million. roughly 22 per year. Orlando exceeded all expectations last season, making the playoffs as the 5th seed, I believe, in just Paolo's second season. They're way ahead of schedule in their rebuild, so they're not looking to take on more talent that they want to build for the future. They have a team right now in place that is playoff caliber in the Eastern Conference, and they want to continue rising. They had to address weaknesses. Their main weakness was shooting. They still have weaknesses in terms of backcourt shot creation that they didn't really address too much, but they did need a reliable three-point shooter, and KCP has been hella reliable over the past 2 years as that knockdown catch and shoot guy, and somebody that can take a 1 dribble, 2 dribble pull up in the mid-range as well. And they already had one of the best defenses in the entire league last year. It's only going to get better adding KCP. Now this one might come as a shock to a lot of people, but at 9 I have Mikal Bridges traded to New York. I'm giving that a B. The Knicks gave up Bojan Bogdanovic, Mamadi Diakite, Shake Milton, unprotected first round picks in 2025, 2027, 2029, and 2031, all from New York, their own firsts, an unprotected pick swap in 2028, and a top 4 protected 25 pick from Milwaukee, and a second round pick in 2025 for Mikal Bridges, Keita Bates-Diop, and a 2026 second round pick. Overpay and a half. I'll speak briefly on the Nets side of things. I'm giving them an A. We laughed at them for not getting Jalen Green and 4 first round picks for Mikal Bridges when they had the opportunity to do so. But this summer, they got 5 first round picks for him. So giving Nets an A. For the Knicks, I'm giving them a B. Reunited all the Villanova boys. Got to bring back Ryan Arcidiacono, but they're all together. And Mikal Bridges is going back to a role that suits him, being that third option offensively behind Jalen and Julius Randle when he comes back, and if the Knicks choose to keep him. But that's a lot of first round picks to give up for somebody who's not even an all-star, you know? Mikal Bridges is a damn good player. Don't get me wrong, I'm not shitting on Mikal Bridges, but to give up 5 first round picks and, you know, valuable rotational pieces like Bojan Bogdanovic for somebody who isn't even an all-star is an overpay and a half. And they probably would have made the conference finals if they were fully healthy. And, you know, you're thinking, oh, conference finals team, this postseason, we're 1 move away from being contenders, and they're going to be gung-ho. You know, they had a lot of first round picks to move to get a guy like, I guess, Mikal Bridges, and they did so. It's just, that's a lot of first round picks to give up for somebody who's not an all-star. And I don't even think this makes me like the Knicks more in the Eastern Conference than a team like Philly. I mean, just off of like high-end talent alone, I still might like Milwaukee over the Knicks, and I'm probably in the minority there, but I don't know. I don't think this is a move that makes them a serious contender for me. I can come back to this video a year later and clown myself. This could be a freezing cold take a year later. I'm aware of that, but as of right now, I'm not too high on this pickup. So yeah, it makes the top 10, but it's not one of my favorite pickups in the offseason. At 8, I have Klay going to Dallas. I'm giving that a B as well. So this just wasn't a free agency signing. This actually turned into a sign-in trade. The Mavericks got Klay Thompson, the Warriors got 2 second-round picks, and the Hornets got Josh Green. Just off the fact that Dallas was in the NBA Finals this past season, you know, they're looking to fortify their team and, you know, add a reliable shooter for Luka to kick out to, Kyrie to kick out to. We saw how they needed reliable shooters. Now, throughout the entire playoff run, guys like Derrick Jones Jr., PJ Washington, Josh Green even, they caught fire from outside leading up to the finals, but I don't think they had somebody as, you know, that reliable three-point guy that you don't want to leave open. And I think they could have really used that in the finals against the Celtics. They didn't have that, and they're getting that in Klay Thompson, who's well past his prime, probably had the worst season of his career last year, valued at an all-time low, but at the end of the day, it still is Klay Thompson. I think with him going to a position where he's not going to be looked at as a guy who's needed to get them a lot of points, somebody who's needed to be a 20-point per game scorer, he doesn't have to be that in Dallas. He's playing behind he's playing behind Kyrie, behind Luka, and I think he's going to have a lot more room to work in, given that Luka attracts so much attention. Kyrie attracts so much attention. Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively are much more impactful as lob threats. This is a younger team. Klay Thompson doesn't have a lot of onus on him anymore. He doesn't have a lot of offensive or as much offensive responsibility going to Dallas. It is a 3-year, $50 million deal. So it's not something too long term, and it's a very low like salary per year. So I think it's a damn good pickup for the Mavericks. I think it's a better position for Klay. He's a lot more comfortable. He just needed to change the scenery at the end of the day. Now they did lose some defense in losing Josh Green, and I think they intend to start Klay Thompson. So a perimeter of Kyrie, Luka, and Klay. In the past, Klay was a damn good defender, a reliable defender, one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, but he's nowhere near that anymore, unfortunately. So this kind of makes Dallas's defense Swiss cheese, and they're going to be relying on Gafford and Lively to protect the paint a lot, because they're going to give up a lot of dribble penetration while Kyrie, Luka, and Klay are on the floor together. So, and I think they intend to start him. I don't know if they're going to bring him off the bench. Maybe that's better suited for him, and I don't know if he's going to accept that at this point of his career. But defensively, those three together, I don't really like that too much, but Jason Kidd's going to have to figure something out. At 7, we have Avdija going to Portland via that Brogden trade. I'm giving that one a B+. This was a damn good pickup. I already explained the pieces involved in the trade, but I didn't like it on Washington's behalf, but I love it on Portland's behalf because their backcourt was loaded. They still have Anthony Simons on roster. Scoot Henderson just finished his rookie year, and Shaedon Sharpe is more of a 2-guard in my opinion than a small forward, but he's had to play there out of necessity and player fit. Portland needed more forwards, not more guards, and they got a damn good one in Deni Avdija, who just came off a career season, and they just drafted Klingon. So Portland's obviously rebuilding. Being able to get somebody like Avdija, who has, in my opinion, a pretty high ceiling to hit on a very good contract, given his output and given the potential that I see in him, fits Portland's timeline. This is a damn good pickup from Portland. One of the savviest pickups, one of the savviest moves in the entire offseason. At 6, I got Andre Drummond going to Philly, returning to Philly, giving that a B+. Obviously, Drummond's not going to match the ability of Embiid at all, not even close to that. But Drummond had a damn good season last year in Chicago. He's proven to be one of the best backup centers in the entire league. And you just want to have somebody to provide a lot of insurance for when Joel Embiid goes down. You're hoping for Embiid to have a healthy season. You're always hoping for that if you're Philly, but that's not something that you can rely on. But, you know, them picking up Paul George, bringing back Tyrese Maxey, if Embiid does go down, they have those two guys to kind of keep the team afloat. But they didn't really have a center to really rely on. They were hoping for guys like Paul Reed and Mo Bamba to just do the job. But Drummond is a lot more reliable than those two guys, so they have a lot more insurance for if Embiid goes down, and they didn't really break the bank for him. Being able to get Andre Drummond on a 2-year, $10 million deal, I think that's top tier for Philly and a very savvy pickup for them, so I'm giving them a B+ for that. Hartenstein to OKC. Giving that one a B+. OKC signed Hartenstein on a 3-year, $87 million contract, averages out to about $29 million per year. Now on face value, that seems like a lot of money. But like I said, in 2024, everybody's getting the Brinks truck. That's not even close to a max contract anymore, actually. OKC was a team that had a lot of cap space going into the offseason, and they were a team that needed more physicality up front and more of a rebounding presence and just a big body, you know, with Chet Holmgren playing the 5 full time. He's going to take a lot of bumps and bruises, and he's not really that physical presence. He's going to swat a lot of shots because he's tall as shit and has a wingspan and has great defensive instincts, but he's not going to be that enforcer or bruiser. I think Hartenstein can be that guy. He had a damn good season for New York, and I think this is a damn good pickup for OKC. They're a contender now. They were one of the biggest surprises of this most recent season. They got the 1 seed, for crying out loud, so they're no longer rebuilding anymore. They are contending with Shea in his prime. J-Dub really ahead of schedule. What is this, his 3rd season, and he's already a 20-point per game scorer. Chet Holmgren pretty much being ahead of schedule. This team as a whole being ahead of schedule. Like, they're ready to compete now. The rebuild is done. They're here, and Shea is going to be an MVP caliber player for the next 5 or so years. They're ready to compete now, and this was a pickup that matches that direction. At 4, we have another OKC pickup. We have them picking up Caruso in the Josh Giddy trade. I'm giving OKC an A- for that one. The asking price for Caruso was multiple first-round picks at the trade deadline of last season, and for OKC to get him for just giving up Josh Giddy, somebody who they didn't even play much in the playoffs, somebody who was pretty much ousted from this team's future plans given the priorities of Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams. They didn't really need Giddy anymore, and to be able to get somebody like Caruso, probably top 5 role players in the entire league, damn good pickup. Teams ahead of schedule, they're contending. They were the 1 seed last year. This pickup makes them even more formidable. So A- for OKC. Not much to say about that one. At 3, we're now in the top 3. PG to Philly, A-. This was the most notable pickup in the entire offseason. Paul George was the biggest domino to fall in the 2024 free agency. We all knew it. We just didn't really know for sure where he was going to go. Philly was the top destination, we all assumed, if he was going to lead the Clippers. And lo and behold, he goes to Philly. He signed a 4-year, $212 million deal. Sheesh. Now that is a Brinks truck. That is an upwards of $50 million per year for somebody who's on the tail end of his prime, hinging on leaving his prime. That's a lot of money. I think he's going to be 37 or 38 at the end of the contract, but if you're Philly, you're not really thinking about that. You're thinking of maximizing the prime of Joel Embiid. There's really no guarantee on how many more years of MVP caliber Joel Embiid you have. So you got to maximize his prime while you got it. And adding somebody like Paul George, that is what does it, Not giving it an A+ because they were like the only contender in the entire league that had cap space. So they were going to be the team to sign a max caliber player or super max caliber player. You add somebody like Paul George, who is now going to be your 3rd option. I think this is going to be the most efficient Paul George we've seen in his entire career. The pressure is off of him. He can focus a lot more on his defense. He can be more of a spot up guy, playing off of Joel Embiid post ups, Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid pick and rolls. He's going to be incredibly efficient. I don't think it's going to be too much of an adjustment period for PG. I think he's going to be very comfortable being that 3rd option in Philly. And I don't want to say when Joel Embiid goes down, but if Joel Embiid goes down for like a 5 or 10 game stretch, Tyrese Maxey is not going to be the only guy that has to carry the offense. Now, Paul George would be able to improve his offensive responsibilities and be that second guy behind Tyrese Maxey if Joel Embiid gets injured. So this is a damn good signing. Just giving Philly an A- for doing what they had to do. It wasn't too hard to sign Paul George. He pretty much fell into their laps. But at the end of the day, they signed him. He was the best player in free agency, and they got him. So I'm giving him an A-. At number 2, I have DeJounte Murray going to New Orleans. I'm giving that an A. I think New Orleans got a highway robbery here. I don't think they gave up too much to get DeJounte. They needed somebody who was more of a point guard than CJ McCollum. I think he was just trying to be a point guard out of necessity. New Orleans didn't have any other options. But DeJounte Murray is somebody who thrives more with the ball in his hands instead of forced into being a shooting guard like he was in Atlanta. We saw when Trey went down how much DeJounte was able to thrive in that pick and roll. And with this pickup, New Orleans can have him as the starting point guard. CJ can gravitate more to that 2 guard. And they didn't even give up Brandon Ingram. A lot of people were just expecting a Brandon Ingram, DeJounte Murray swap. I was one of those people. I was expecting that. And they didn't even have to do that. He's still on this team. Still got Zion. Now they still got a hole at the center position. They drafted Yves Missi, who I don't really know much about. There's quite a few people that like him as a center. Is he going to be starting caliber? Out the gate, probably not. So at the 5, they still have a hole to fill, losing Jonas Valanciunas. But bro, to get DeJounte Murray without having to give up Brandon Ingram makes this team a lot better. They're still really deep. I know they gave up Dyson Daniels, Larry Nance, but they still have Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Alvarado, Jordan Hawkins. This team is still really deep. So I don't think that makes Brandon Ingram safe, given how many wings New Orleans still has with Trey Murphy and Herb Jones. But damn, to be able to get DeJounte without giving up Brandon Ingram, hell of a move from David Griffin. Second best move of the offseason. Behind number 1, which is CP3 to San Antonio, giving that an A+. I love everything about this pickup. Everything, every aspect of it. The contract, it's just a 1-year, $11 million contract. And they didn't have to give up anything in order to get him. The fit. We knew how good Wemby was last year, playing with average to well below average caliber playmakers. San Antonio having to experiment with Jeremy Sohan as the starting point guard, as the main facilitator. We saw how that went. But we knew if Wemby had just a good caliber starting point guard, we knew how good he would be. Even, with how good he was without that. He was such a lob threat. There were so many opportunities for him to get just easy catch and finish opportunities because of his catch radius, because of his positioning, his instincts, and just him being fucking 7'4", And to get CP3, not just a great point guard, not just a facilitator, one of the best of all time. Of course, he's past his prime, borderline washed. The motherfucker's 39, he's pushing 40. We all know this. But CP3 still has incredible basketball IQ, still has great vision, and it's just a great fit. Obviously, the situation in Golden State, it wasn't a great situation for him. I didn't like it from the start. But whenever he's gone into a situation that has needed the type of impact that CP3 can provide, he's gone and made that team even better. And I'm not saying that this is going to make San Antonio a championship contender. I'm not even saying this is going to make them a definitive playoff team. But he is going to be integral in the early development of Victor Wembanyama. Just understanding the game, giving him more opportunities just to score, putting him in positions to succeed, and just helping him learn the game. Him with Popovich mentoring Wemby early on, this is going to be great for his career trajectory and career arc. And San Antonio didn't give up anything to get him, but I think he's going to be very vital in the early development of Wemby.